Hello everyone, Angelo here, homeless filmmaker in LA, living in my car for over 2 years now. And I work in a warehouse job late at night. I totally hate my bosses. Oh, I hate these fucking scumbags. Um, it's just weird the psychological insight I got into these assholes today when I got in an argument with two of them, and one was like, "You got a bad attitude, Angelo." I'm like, "You got no cause." I don't know what the hell. It wasn't super heated. Really, for me, it was fun. Like, I enjoyed that kind of thing, and it was so fucked up, and I was pissed off, and I'm thinking about calling HR to complain, but I don't know what good it'll do. Because based on what I saw later, this guy, like, is just so far up his own bootlicking ass. Like, he doesn't understand anything outside of the company's policies. So, in other words, humanity, understanding people, like treating people with respect. If it's not like written in a policy, this motherfucker doesn't think it's real. I haven't slept for it's like 11, almost noon now, so around noon. Some guy's listening to baseball on the radio, so whatever, you can listen to that in the background. I have been up for, let me do the math. What's 1 to noon? How many hours is that? 11 hours? 35 hours I've been up, and I'll be up until this afternoon, a little later. Yeah, I've been up for like 35 hours now. I just couldn't sleep. I was so, I don't know what it was. I wasn't like having a massive anxiety. Partly I was just, obsessed with the news and watching that a little. I guess part of it too was like I was just really worried about my job. Like, worried about the Trump virus, worried about dealing with my asshole bosses, worried about dealing with abusive people at my job. There's a bunch of, abusive, like, victim mentality people who, take out their anger. The drivers, basically, at this warehouse, take out their anger on people. But I've been requesting to get off the conveyor belts and into other sections of the warehouse because, there you go, because drivers frequently don't wear masks. But beyond that, when the thing is, like, if you can imagine, like, my arm is the conveyor belt, like, going up. Imagine, like, this is looking from the sky here. And there's people on each side of the conveyor belt. The packages are going down all the way to the end. And you have, like, a little rectangular section where each city and zip code goes to. And that's straightforward enough. It's not, like, massively difficult or anything. Like, I've heard at Amazon, it's really brutal. Like, you have strict quotas. They don't do that there. But, I'm just thinking about how far up this guy's own ass he was. I can see why they made him the manager. He's a fucking bootlicker of all bootlickers. When the drivers come, they back their trucks in, and so they're all over. So automatically it, like, doubles or more than doubles the amount of people at a belt, and that's just more chances for the Trump virus to infect from one person to another. And I got tired of it, and I've worked at 3 different belts in the warehouse. All of them had people not wearing masks. I told the manager, I said, hey, I want to get off. Can I work in this other position in the corner that I did before, but it hurt me a lot? I'm like, I'm probably in better shape now for it. That's what I was thinking. I didn't say that to him then. He said, okay, let me see what I can do. That was like last week before New Year's. Nothing happened. Didn't hear anything. I've been working on belts. I like the sorting of the boxes and stuff. That's fine. It's the problem is being around people who don't wear masks, and also just straight jerks. One of the drivers, I don't know, for however many people watch this now, have watched these and know, but a driver punched one of my coworkers. Not all the drivers are jerks. A lot of them are nice people, but one would assume. I don't know. I don't interact with them that much. But then you just have bullies who clearly are in a rage all the time and yell at people. And hey, I don't deal with that. Fuck them. But anyways, so I said, let me get on to that other position. I hear nothing for a week. I keep dealing with this shit. And then last night I couldn't sleep at all. I'm like, I got it. And I called HR to report it. This motherfucking manager, he's like, you don't have to call HR to report everything. I'd love not to call HR to report stuff if you guys didn't try and slow roll my request for safety, which I have a legal right. I have a legal right to refuse unsafe work. And not only that, like, I should be fucking thanked and commended as heroic for all the stress I've got. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. And this asshole had something to say about that too, the stress I've gone through. This motherfucker. Almost like, oh, it's not in the manual you have to go through stress. He didn't say that, but I'll get to it. Anyways, so yesterday I called HR and I said, look, nothing's happened. I don't feel safe. I don't want my hours cut either. I don't want to just leave after lunch when a lot of the drivers come. I want to work my shifts. But I said I want to have a record of me requesting this because nothing's happening about it. Today I walk up to one of the supervisors. I tell him this. He looks very uncomfortable at me. I don't know. He just always looks uncomfortable. And it's kind of funny too because all these supervisors are probably, for the most part, like, they look like 8 years younger than me at least. So I don't know, I have a little bit of this older, I don't give a shit attitude. And actually that makes me feel kind of sad in that I briefly encountered, there was one older lady who worked there who seemed to not give a shit either and was good. And I liked that she was talking about how they didn't give proper breaks. And I don't see her anymore. She must have quit. That's too bad. So I went up to the supervisor. I told him, look, hey, I want to work this other position. This isn't right. I don't want to, I'm unsafe. I don't feel safe. And even with masks on, there's people around me too much. So he said, okay, I'll talk to the manager. And when we had our break, another supervisor, he said, okay, after the break, go to the manager and talk to him and you figure out. I'm like, what's there to talk about? I was telling him, I'm like, it's a simple request. Get someone down from there and put me up there. And he's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. What can I do? I'm like, is there any point in talking to him? Like, is it just going to be a no with an explanation? Because I don't need to go talk to him. Anyways, I go fucking talk to him. Two managers have me cornered in this office like I'm some lowlife scumbag. And ask me what's up. And I'm already pissed off. And I don't know how to recreate the whole argument that well. I don't think it necessarily started as an argument, but I was letting them know I was not having it like I was not having patience for their bullshit. Meaning, they said, what's the issue? And I told them basically, I don't feel safe. There's the aerosol spread, which you can do even with masks on. And also, the drivers yell, and aside, I don't even worry about the abuse thing or anything, but when they do that, that's more chance for coronavirus transmission, and a lot of them don't wear masks. So, I want to work this other position, and somehow we got into it or whatever, because they were like, well, it's not just, and I said, what's the holdup? I've been asking for this. And they're like, well, it's not just that. I said, I want to work that one position after lunch when the drivers tend to come. And they said, well, it's not just that. We have to keep this place properly staffed. And that's when I kind of started getting mad and saying, like, you guys had no problem putting me in this position when I started. And it was backbreaking work. And nobody should have put me there, especially as a new person. They put me there because nobody wants to work it. And for full shifts, when everyone worked half shifts there, like they would switch at lunch. And I forget, it was just more of that back and forth, and I was pissed off. And it was two of them. So I was talking to one main guy, and then the other guy was off in the corner. And I'm like, yeah, and I asked you last week, I was like, don't put me, like, don't try and shoo me away like a dog and act like, oh, I have to respect you. Talk to me like an equal. And here's where it really got surreal. It felt like I was a convict who had been in prison for 10 years and came out and like don't understand this world that I'm in. And who the fuck is this guy saying like what he said? I said, you just brushed me off. I asked last week for it. He's like, oh, I didn't just brush you off or something. And we kept going back and forth all about it all. I'm like, I've complained about this, whatever. Obviously, it's unenforceable, the masks, or you guys won't enforce it. And I talked about how other employees have told me they're scared to bring it up because of the fear of retaliation, or they just said they won't because they think you guys don't care. This guy could not give a shit less about what I was saying. He's like, why would they fear retaliation? Like, what do they have to fear? I said, who cares? Like, they know stories around the world of people being retaliated against. He's like, see, you're bringing in the whole world to this. And I want to be like, you motherfucker, and charge him and jump over him right there. But dive across the room and lunge at him. But I was like, it doesn't matter. They're people, what they feel is valid. And not only that, I've had to go, so therefore I have to take the responsibility and go through the stress of this. He's like, but you don't have to. I'm like, that's irrelevant. I'm doing the right thing. I'm a person of responsibility and of my word. I'm protecting people. And he's like, here's the fucking thing. He's like, you have a bad attitude, Angelo. I'm like, you got no business bringing up my attitude when I've been consistently putting myself through stress to try and protect people here by reporting the lack of mask usage. Anyways, he's like, yeah, I will bring up your bad attitude. It ended with them saying, okay, we'll put you on whatever position. This piece of shit bootlicker. I'm still wondering, should I call HR and complain about it? I would leave an eloquent message, explaining what the issue is. I wouldn't be like screaming into the phone. I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I think I should. Like, how can I just let that go? And talk to me like I don't have to say anything. Like, yeah, it would be easier if you weren't trying to intimidate me and bully me to not report this, but I have to speak up because you guys aren't bothering to do it. Anyway, so I worked that position, and then sure enough, yeah, it is hurting me. Like, it's hard work, and it wasn't even the heavy lifting or anything. It was just literally the way I have to reach across the conveyor belt. The way it's set up, it's up on a scaffolding and you don't have much room. So you have to reach a lot. It literally just hurts my ligaments and joints. So like my elbows, my thumbs even picking up very light bags that had like shirts in them was like hurting me because I have to reach over like this. And on the floor, the conveyor belts are lower. You can get right up to them more easily and you have a lot more room. So it just, I don't have nearly the same issue. I'm like, oh crap, it's hurting me. So now I got to ask to be put on yet another position that they offered. So they said, fine, they'll do that. After work, there was a safety meeting. I attended that. I honestly don't know if I should have or not because it was mostly managers and supervisors there. But I was like, I want to see what's going on. Also, I did get to stay clocked in, so I got paid for another, 45 minutes. And, it was basically more of the corporate techno-babble bullshit for the most part. Also, it was kind of ironic, this fuckhead manager, he's going over this presentation, and it had like 7 New Year's resolutions for how we're going to be safe. And it's like every one of those things is exactly what I've been doing. Taking responsibility, like making sure others are safe, all this stuff. I'm like, this fucker, it's not even registering to him. And he's a young guy too. He's probably around 29, 28. This manager, I don't know, maybe a little older. It doesn't seem to register at all like this is exactly what I've been fucking doing. And I asked some questions too about safety, and he just, rattled off some corporate babble. And that was that. Basically, he just kind of swept aside my concerns. Like, what happens when packages pile up at the end of a belt and someone's trapped there and there's an earthquake? They got evacuated. He's like, he went over all this technical stuff about, well, they're supposed to sort them better and we're training them and stuff, and, we should train better and stuff. But that's a time management training issue or whatever. I'm like, do these fucking people have any concept of death? I'm like, yeah, but it still happens. And he's like, well, this is taking too much time. Talk to me afterwards or whatever. And I talked to him afterwards. I'm like, well, and he keeps going over this stuff. He's like, they're supposed to be training better. You're trained on methods to, stack up packages and stuff. I'm like, you dumb motherfucker. Like, I said, well, what happened? Okay, fine. They're supposed to be sorting better. I've been on the belts where I'm literally having to like speed walk and throw packages, and you can't organize them well enough to be able to avoid crowding the walkways, and especially at the end of the belt where they all just fall off at the end, and it could trap people back there. And he's like, well, they're supposed to be. Oh, you're supposed to. I said, well, what would happen if they're trapped and there's an earthquake and they have to evacuate? And again, fucked mentally, or just fucked up psychologically, corporate type. Like everything is, there's no humanity outside the company. It's a little hard to explain totally, I know, in the video. Just how bizarre and surreal the whole fucking thing was. And tomorrow I'm going to start my new position in there where I won't be working around drivers or that fucking heavy lifting where I was today. But it wasn't even the heavy lifting. Like I said, it's weird how I have to lean over and extend my back and stuff. That just hurts at my age. I don't know. There was a younger person working next to me. I could tell probably much younger. Wasn't an issue for her. I'm like, holy crap, how does it not hurt you? It was hurting my elbow just to reach for stuff. So anyways, I don't know. Should I call HR? I'm not worried about any, retaliation or whatever. I'm like, this motherfucker, like his brain is on another planet. And again, I'm saying, like, I feel like an ex-convict getting out, and I'm like, I deal with people face to face. I don't deal with you like you're above me or whatever. It's amazing. If my younger self could see me now, what I would think. Because, yeah, when I was younger, I'd be like, oh boy, the boss is here, or whatever. It's so exciting. I'm excited to have a real job. Although that excitement went away after a few weeks or months. But even then, I'm like, well, that's the boss. You got to do what the boss says and all that. Now I'm like, no, I only do what makes sense to me. But, yeah, anyways, I don't fucking know. I don't know if it'll make any difference. This fuckhead. All I know is when I leave this job, I'm probably going to tell him to go fuck himself. Damn helicopter. All I see is packages everywhere. But yeah, I couldn't even sleep last night. It was really messed up. So hopefully I get to sleep earlier. Hopefully I get to sleep at all today. And I barely eaten too. I had very little appetite. Feeling worried about all this shit. Oh, and at the safety meeting, now they say all this bullshit about how they're gonna, none of this stuff matters. After I quit this job, I'm gonna be like, fuck them, I won't remember anything. But, at the safety meeting, now they're talking about getting really strict on mask compliance and stuff. Now that, OSHA is coming down on the company. Apparently OSHA is enforcing with like all open businesses, stuff like we had the other day, or, yesterday, mandatory Trump virus testing, and they did the nasal swabs. Oh man, it felt like when something's stuck up your nose, you feel like you have to sneeze it out. I was like, and they were rapid, like 10-minute tests too. I tested negative. One person apparently at the warehouse did test positive, and I heard 2 people refused to take the test. So that meant they had to go stay in quarantine, or they were told to quarantine for 10 days. They couldn't come into the building. Anyways, I despise these people. I truly wish for bad things for them. And I feel like they have no humanity, or little humanity, as far as what they give to others. And I gotta eat. I barely ate. I had no appetite. Just a surreal day, and I'm like, oh fuck. Like, why did I even go to that? I mean, that's the thing. All I get back is this corporate speak. And I'm like, okay, but what if a person is trapped? Yes, they're supposed to be trained better, and the belts are supposed to be moving all day. You can't stop them for any reason. But what happens if someone's trapped? They're like, nobody has the concept of like death there. So I don't know. Like I said, who cares? Who cares about it all? Got to do this stupid job. And I'm better off, like I'm like allergic to all that corporate stuff. I'm better off staying away from all that as much as possible, except whenever I gotta argue, and I do have to argue with my boss, and also I'm a person of my word. Like, I'm not gonna back down from a safety issue because it's like, oh, you got a bad attitude. He's got the bad attitude as far as I can tell, because he's not as concerned about quickly implementing safety procedures as I am. I mean, mask enforcement and getting me the F out of Dodge when I'm around people who don't wear masks. And I repeatedly ask to be away from those people. I hate this man. I hate these people. All right.